Okay, here we go, home stretch. This is video number 3 of chapter 8 for Kinesiology 236, and jumping now into the nerve system of the hip and pelvis area. One thing I want to point out, and it should be pretty pronounced based on what I was mentioning before about the lumbar region. When you look at iliopsoas, more accurately psoas major, psoas minor, remember where they originate from in this area. And you'll usually have clients who will come in with some type of neurological dysfunction or pain or discomfort in the low back. Usually L5S1 is your culprit, fifth lumbar, first sacral. And there's the nerve roots that come out and run down into the leg, originate in this area, but it's the same area where you have all that musculature that comes together. And believe me, that dysfunction that's found down the leg and that musculature that originates here are 100% interconnected. And you have to really be a firm believer of understanding that hip flexors can tug on this and it can cause nerve root dysfunction. All right? And most of your clients will come in at some point with some type of issue. And if you help them with that pelvic tilt, you help them quiet down the psoas and iliopsoas area and the hip flexors and work on some hamstring flexibility, you'll always have a client. I left these up for your benefit. I thought they were pretty good. I thought they kind of help in terms of showing, okay, here's iliopsoas, here's where it is, here's what it does. And I thought it was pretty good to leave these up here for your review. And I took all in the previous slides from the book, I took all of the animations out just so you have all the information up there in one shot. Did this for all of them in terms of rectus femoris and the rest of the musculature you find in the book. And again, you look at these, you start thinking in terms of, is this a 2-joint or 1-joint muscle? Well, this is a 2-joint muscle, rectus femoris. You look at this and you go sartorius, 2-joint or 1-joint. It's a 2-joint, crosses the hip, crosses the knee. Look at this, you go 2-joint or 1-joint. Well, that's a 1-joint, pectineus. Okay, got it. Adductor brevis, 2-joint, 1-joint. Okay, it's a 1-joint. Cool, got it. And when you start to look at these also, you start to look at some of these muscles and where they originate from, they're all kind of in the same neighborhood. So if you have some dysfunction that originates, you can usually localize it down to the dysfunction can take you back to the neighborhood that's causing the problem. And for some of these, you didn't see these before because they weren't represented and they were deep to other musculature, but this helps actually give you a clear picture as opposed to the other slides that we had earlier as to where some of these muscles originate. Where they originate and where they attach, and to that end, what they help do in terms of rotate and adduct. All right, gracialis, look at this, okay, got it. And now you start to put together, like we talked about valgus and vargus, valgus, perhaps, gracialis is short, and it's pulling on the proximal end of the tibia, and that's causing valgus. So start to look at this in terms of what we went over in the book already over the previous chapters and start to apply this and start to go, oh, okay, it could be this action, it could be this movement pattern, it could be this exercise, or it could be this type of technique when working with a sport athlete. Semitendinosus, now notice, right, you have gracialis. This is on the left side of your screen, so this is an anterior view. We go to here, semitendinosus, is a hamstring, and now the leg is represented on the right side of your screen. Same thing, right? Semimembranosus, okay, coming down on the medial aspect of the leg, outside here on the medial side of the tibia, got it. And then biceps femoris, let you kind of drink that in for a second. Same thing here, you got glute max. We saw this earlier in a much smaller rendering. When you look at where it originates from, it originates pretty broadly across the sacroiliac joint. And as a result, it originates here and attaches out here. The loading on this is pretty heavy across that SI joint. So believe me when I tell you, you have to really work on those deep muscles first to stabilize all of this. It is to your advantage to do that. Clamshells an abduction with a band, even lateral abduction or even 45-degree abduction should be part of an exercise protocol for most people, just so you can strengthen all the musculature in here to stabilize for this big broad muscle that comes across and attaches out on the femur. Glute med, look at glute med and where he originates from versus glute max. Glute max, if you want to think of it in here as one region, glute med is a little further up on the crest, right on that lateral surface just below the iliac crest. It comes down and attaches out here on the posterior surface. And it's used more in abduction. Now, if we go ahead and look at glute min, he is actually on the face here, right? If you look at that, he's below the iliac crest, and he's kind of tucked underneath glute max, glute med. So this little guy sits deep to all of those and attaches out here on a lateral aspect of the femur. So attaches to the greater trochanter. Okay, greater trochanter. This does not attach as much up here on the greater trochanter. It's actually a little bit further down. So again, you can put these together and start to realize how big of a ridge do you have where it originates, how big of a contact area where it attaches compared to the other two, and then also look at the size of the musculature. Gives you an idea of the power involved with the glutes. And you know this just from lifting weights, the glutes are actually super strong. They're the powerhouse of the body. So now we go back to the leg being represented on the left side of your screen, so we know this is an anterior view. We're talking TFL, tensor fasciae latae, right? And you have the anterior iliac crest up here in the front, runs down, lateral aspect of the thigh, crosses the knee, and attaches on the anterior lateral aspect of the tibia. And with the deep six that we saw earlier that we couldn't really dig into, you look at these guys and you look at their attachments out here and where they originate in here, they are 100% rotator, rotator, rotator. And what I like about these is I've had this with clients where I've worked these muscles specifically, and we get off the table and I have them kind of walk around. I jokingly call it take a test drive, and I have them walk a little lap around the area where we're working, and they look taller, they walk more erect, they have better posture. And just having the time to work with clients and work on these muscles, I can tell you, not only are they used just in straight hip stabilization and external rotation at the joint, but they also help beyond stabilization in terms of postural. And just think about that in terms of if somebody has an issue with valgus, that internal rotation, and they're rotating in the femur, you work these guys, you're doing the exact opposite, externally rotating. So unfortunately, many coaches are misguided and are thinking, I'm going to work glutes to counteract this valgus type of movement pattern seen in the knee and the ankle. And really what they need to work on is not the big powerhouse, the glutes. They need to work these guys. And they do their client a disservice by putting a big load on their shoulders and having them squat, and it puts them right into valgus under load when they should be working these first. All right. I also broke these guys out, and I did this in terms of with hip flexion, and you have the agonists for each one. And I did a numeric sequence for this for you guys. So you have psoas, iliopsoas, rectus femoris, pectineus, sartorius, and what you'll notice is some of them repeat, and you'll see the numbers kind of go, looks like they're out of sequence, but you'll understand here in a second. So numbers 1 and 2, psoas, iliopsoas, I already talked about where they originate up here and where he originates. All right, iliacus, got rectus femoris, 2-joint muscle. All right, pectineus number 4, sartorius number 5, TFL, 2-joint muscle number 6. So if we take this further, we have glute max, which we just went over, big origination ridge, big attachment ridge, not so much on the greater trochanter, but near. Biceps femoris, all right. You have semitendinosus, more on the medial side, Semimembranosus is medial side of a leg. And semitendinosus. So these are the two that my massage therapist couldn't get right. Now we go into glute medius. Notice we got glute med, which is number 11. Now he's truly out here in greater trochanter. TFL, he's also used in hip adduction, right? And he's also used in, where'd he go? Here he is, hip flexion. So notice TFL is used in hip flexion, and TFL is also used in hip abduction. Glute max, we saw him before as well, and also glute minimus are used in abduction. So some of these muscles, especially these guys, are used in multiple movement patterns. Glute mini, here's mini, right? You know, max is along here, attaches out here. Med, you got him right here, attaches out here. And then minimus, deep to the other two. And then you have TFL again, which is used in rotation. So I tried to break these out and give them a numeric sequence so it's easier to follow, and I hope that helped. Hip external rotation, glute max, just based on where it attaches out here on the femur, and then also the 6 deep lateral rotators. And this is kind of the important point I wanted to get across earlier was somebody has a valgus issue and coaches will load them up with heavy squats thinking they're working the glutes, but they're not really working against the internal rotation, which is seen in valgus. They're really working glutes and truly working glutes in hip extension, right? As they're standing up with a bar on their shoulders in a squat position, they're doing hip extension in sagittal plane. What you really want to have happen is you want to work the glutes almost like secondarily to these in external rotation. Work these first. These are the biggies. Then you go on to this guy, especially somebody who has valgus. Okay? Hope you guys like that. I hope that helped. That type of breakdown, sometimes it's difficult on my end to make sure I'm getting it across right, where you guys can understand it. Do me a favor. Send me an email. Let me know if you like, dislike, you understand, don't understand. Do the color codification processes help? Also, make it a point to just stay on top of your homework and stay on top of your assignments. I'm going to put another video up just kind of outlining that process so nobody gets caught at the end, because once May 15th hits, it's over, people. I can't help you. So you got to make sure you get all your stuff in. To that end, be on the lookout for a check for learning and homework assignment, and have yourself a good one. Thanks.